Welcome to Grieving Insomniacs. I am your host, Christy Haberman. I am glad you're here. Thanks for being a part of our community. A few disclaimers before we get started. I am a licensed therapist. However, this podcast is not to be considered mental health therapy or counseling. It is for entertainment purposes only and is not associated with my counseling practice, Christy Haberman Counseling Services. Thanks for showing up. Welcome to Grieving Insomniacs. This is your host, Christy Haberman, and Kai the Wonder Dog. I don't know if you can hear her panting back there in the background. It's 71 degrees here. She's been acting weird all day. I left her downstairs, and then she came back up. I was late getting started because she wanted out, and then she wants back in. So if you hear her clinking around today, just know that her 14-year-old body, I think it's hard for her to get comfortable sometimes. Poor thing. So today we're talking about grief anniversaries. Well, I don't exactly know that it's a grief anniversary. Christopher's birthday is Saturday. And I am sad. Very, very sad. It bothers me that, and I've always had a hard time remembering my kid's birthday, but I'm having a hard time remembering how old he is and just thinking about how long he's actually been gone. I might possibly die and he'll have been dead longer than he was alive. And that's just such a scary thought to me. And then Mother's Day, I went out to his grave site, and one of his friends had sent us sand from California to put on his grave. So I had buried some with him because he really loved being in California and living there. But then the other part of me kept some on his grave. And I went there for Mother's Day and it was gone. And it was so devastating. So devastating. Like, who would steal sand? It was in a glass jar. And my husband says, well, they probably mowed and picked it up. Well, even if you pick it up, why can't you just put it back on the gravestone? But no, someone just went through there and I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me that it was just gone. He said, well, maybe the wind blew it away. I don't see how it would get blown away. We do have some wicked winds here in South Dakota, but I don't know how it would have gotten blown away. But the end of it is the sand is gone. And people that go around and mess in cemeteries and take people's stuff, I've seen it on, I'm not the only one. I've seen things on Facebook and then the cemeteries that don't let you place anything on the gravestones, which is also a really weird part because I put it on the headstone. I didn't put it in the grass in front. So the things that were on the grass in front so that they could weed eat were still there, some of them. They took the lights, but they're just the Dollar Tree lights that we put up every year. It's just really sad. So they're gone. And people that take things from the cemetery, I don't think you realize how much anguish you're causing someone. That the things that they valued, that they had left for their loved ones, is now gone. And it had some meaning for them. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been at the cemetery. So the other thing that I thought about also, the other thing is that why would you want to take something from the graveyard? It's like so disturbing to me that you would do that. Anyway, today was rough. Because immediately my mind goes to how are we going to celebrate Christopher's birthday? And I don't know if I want to put anything out on the grave this year because it's so heartbreaking when it gets stolen. And this is year 11. No, year 12. He'd be 37 this year. 37. God, that's a long time. And I try to imagine what he'd look like. I would like to have that software that you can do the age regression on. I know it takes probably a lot of work that I have the skills for. But I would like to see what he would have looked like at 37, and what his life would have been like at 37, and what I would have been like at 37. Because I'm 57 now, we're 20 years apart. I'll be 58 in July. I just wonder what it would be like to have him here and walk through the door to celebrate his birthday with him not being dead. For those of you that don't know, Christopher was 25 when he died in 2011. So the 27th is a hard day in many ways. So we knew in April that Christopher had some kind of cancer. We didn't know how much and how bad. On his 27th birthday, he found out that he had stage 3B Hodgekins Lymphoma. So not only is it his birthday anniversary, but it is also his anniversary of being diagnosed with cancer. And I've talked about this before. He never talked to me again after his diagnosis. He'd text me, but he wouldn't talk to me on the phone. And it's so sad. So, for me, the countdown begins on the 27th of May. And I have a new coworker at work, and I'm like, do I warn her that I become more irritable, more sad, more isolated until the 19th of June? On his death day. And then I honestly think, like, I swear I've dealt with my grief. I swear I have. I don't know what else I could do to stop being sad. I get so mad because then I think about the neurologist I went to that said, well, you need some counseling. My best friend's a therapist. My other best friend's a therapist. They know everything there is to know about me. I don't know how going to counseling would help. What are they going to tell me? Stop being sad? That's usually what they say. Or they try to use some cognitive behavioral therapy on you, which is just trying to change your negative thought. So thinking about the significance of Christopher dying on Juneteenth, which was a significant holiday for people in the South, I'm like, I wonder what the connection to that is. And it was also Father's Day. And I did have a therapist tell me that there was significance with him dying on Father's Day. And I asked myself, now it'll be 12 years on the 19th, and I don't know what that significance is. So what would they tell me, like, if I went to counseling? I'm not sure there's anything they can tell me. I don't think there's anything that anybody can tell me that will make this better. It's just one of those things that we have to get through. And I'll start forgetting things because my mind will be wrapped up in what I'm thinking inside of my head. Memories of Christopher, previous birthdays. And I don't know if anybody else does this, but I often ruminate on things that I wish I could have changed, or parenting things that I did that I can see clearly now was not the right thing to do, that I wish I could go back and do differently. And then I wonder about if I'm going to get a sign from Christopher, and I really start questioning my faith and those kind of things during this period of time. Because it's so hard to, I don't even know how to explain it. It's so hard to trust in the unknown. Then the other part of me is like, could you be making it up? Might be. But if it comforts me, why not? See, that's the other reason I won't go to mental health counseling, because they'll try to convince me that the things that I believe and the things that I hold dear are not true. And I just, until you've been in my shoes, until you've walked my walk and understood the traumatic experiences of losing a child, I just don't think people should have an opinion. And even if you walked my walk and talked my talk, as we talk about on this podcast frequently, is that not everybody's grief journey is the same. But we are enough alike, those of us that are grieving children. We are enough alike that we can at least have an understanding of each other. I just feel like people that haven't lost a child have no understanding. And sometimes when I'm doing grief counseling and my client is really sad, I feel just really powerless, because I wish that there was something I could say or something I could do that would make it better. So it's like I have these two different parts of myself. I have the counselor part of myself that can analyze the situation and know that if I was a client is sitting in someone's office, there is nothing I could say that would make it better. But then there's me as the human being that doesn't have that professional hat on, that is sitting there saying to myself, there's got to be something that will make this better. This is so painful. And there's not. I have accepted that there is not. For those of you that are newly grieving, I am sorry. And if you want to stop following me and jump to someone that's going to be a little bit more positive to grief, I hope you find what you need there. But in my experience, this is it. This is it. So for Thanksgiving this year, instead of staying home, kind of wallowing in my grief, I went somewhere else. And it was better. It was better. It was somewhat of a distraction. I wasn't stuck in my head. And because I went somewhere new and did something new, like I could think better. So I think that's what I'm planning on doing this weekend. I don't know where I'm going. Maybe to Wyoming somewhere. It's supposed to be rainy a little bit. So then I say to myself, Mother Nature is crying too. Because she misses Chris too. But it's supposed to rain on his birthday. The other thing that I do, I will go out to dinner, or I'll cook it myself. These days I haven't felt much like cooking. Like, I'm so tired from my job. It's very intensely stressful. Not doing counseling really anymore. I'm doing program management and managing employees, and it's way different than counseling. I thought it would be the same, but it's not. Oh, it's so different. Anyway, so I haven't really been doing much cooking. But what I used to do is I used to stay home. I spend the day listening to Christopher music. I have a whole playlist of Christopher music. And I would listen to music all day, and I'd cook. I'd make a homemade cheesecake for him. And then I would make spaghetti. I'm gluten-free, so I'd make it with gluten-free noodles. And then we'd have dinner together. And I'd take a spirit plate out to the grave. And that's a tradition that I borrowed from the Lakota culture, one that I really like and appreciate, even though I'm not Lakota. So take a spirit plate out. If you're eating at home, they do a spirit plate, put it out to the west. And that is, out for the spirits, your deceased loved ones that have moved on. I take one out to the grave. And then if you see an animal eating out of it, and then that is your spirit's, your loved one's spirit coming to eat the spirit plate that you left for them. So I do that. I don't know. It makes my heart happy. to do things like that because I want to believe so badly he exists in another place. It's just one of those traditions that have evolved for me. The time Christopher died, I was practicing that spirituality, and I'm not anymore, but I kept some of those traditions because it makes me feel better with Chris. And really, that's what it's all about, right? And then I pray for him to come visit me. And it hasn't happened so far. Like, I ask for a dream or him to come visit me in my dreams, and it doesn't really happen. Now, it does in moments of crisis. And that's the other thing. And I think I put it on my Instagram. So last week I had a dream. And I had a dream that Christopher was with his grandfather on his father's side. Well, no, it'd be his great-grandfather on his father's side. And he was about 10 years old. And I lived in a house that doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's been torn down. So it's just very, very bizarre. And I remember walking through this house, recognizing this house kind of in my dream, knowing that it wasn't the same house, but knowing that it was different. So it's like I was aware, but I wasn't aware. And my younger son was there, and I realized that Christopher's not there. So I called Christopher, and when Christopher was 10, there were no cell phones, so they were just beginning. It's too expensive for us to have a cell phone, so I didn't have one. But I called Christopher on the telephone, and I tell him to get home. And then I continue on living my life. I remember my dream knowing that it was a period of time later, like 3 or 4 hours later, and I realized that Christopher wasn't home. And so then I start to panic. And I start to panic because he's missing. And then I wake up. And I hate that. Because then all day I carry around those feelings that he's missing. And he is missing. He's missing from my life, and he is dead. And the weird thing about the grandfather is that I went to a psychic that told me that Christopher was met by his great-grandfather from the other side, which would have been the person I was dreaming about in my dream. And so he was deceased too. And that awful feeling that he was missing. So I've been having dreams like that all week. And for those of you that don't know, that's just your subconscious trying to work out your feelings that you're experiencing during the day. And I didn't realize that I had already started missing Christopher until I started having these dreams. And then I wake up with these feelings and don't know what to do with the feelings. I call that dream residue. So I told my husband about it, and I told my best friend about it. And then you just live with the feelings. Because cognitively in my head when I woke up, and I think I'm often operating on two levels, the feeling level and the cognitive level. Maybe that's from my therapist training. I'm not sure, because clearly when you are working with people and they're talking about stuff, it invokes feelings in you, but you can't acknowledge those feelings. You have to stay very cognitive. And I have found that within myself, that's what I do. And so cognitively, I know that the feeling of Christopher being missing is because he's deceased. He's dead. And he is missing from me. And I have not had him pop in and me feel like I see him in my mind. It's probably been a year now. Maybe. I don't know. I should write this stuff down. But anyway, it's been a while. And so maybe I'm missing that. I'm not sure. But I'm definitely trying to work it out inside my head. And so I know I talk a lot about on this podcast, but I would like some feedback from some of you. Do you have this uncomfortable sadness feelings leading up to the birthdays of your children that have passed? Do you dream about them? Like, what's it like for you? Because part of the reason why I do this podcast is so I know I'm not alone in all of this grief. But sometimes I think I'm really strange because I talk so freely about operating on 2 levels and, but I just am who I am. I'm authentic. I'm real. That served me well most of my life until my current job, and my current job just doesn't deal with real very well. They don't like it. I don't care. I tried to modify myself. I'm not doing that anymore. It's more important to be who you are, and who I am is who I am. And right now I'm sad. I'm sad and I don't know what to do with it. And it's not crying like sad. It's like low mood kind of sad. Like it's not depression, because it's definitely situational. I have this low-lying mood of sadness surrounding Christopher all of the time. And I know if I went to, a doctor or someone, they'd say, oh, well, you're depressed. Well, actually, I'm not. I don't think I'm depressed at all. I think I'm sad. There's a huge difference. And there's this tendency in our society to medicate sadness. So I am on medication for the hormones with menopause have really messed with my moods. So I am on antidepressants for that. But I'm not on antidepressants for my sadness, because if I was, I can't even imagine how high of a dose I'd have to be on in order to make that go away. And I don't want to make that go away. It's part of being human. It's part of missing Chris. But right now, it's really strong. And it's really present. And it just breaks my heart sometimes, because I think about how much I love him and miss him, and how much is absent from my life after he died. The other heartbreaking piece of the story is my dad asked me to go to his church on Monday. And first time he specifically asked me to go. And he was preaching a sermon. I was like, okay, I'll go. And the church was outside my realm of comfortableness. I was raised to be a very independent, women were equal to men kind of mentality. This church is not that. Very much dominated by men, very much traditional, but it's fine. It's my dad's church. It's fine. I can deal with it for the time that I went. And my dad preached about a story of a friend of his that lost her eyesight and then 20 years later got her eyesight back. And he's tearing up in church talking about this. And my heart just broke in half, because I seen him have more emotion towards that lady that lost her eyesight than he did towards Christopher. And I still struggle with that. Because I'm like, really, Dad? That's the worst thing that's happened in your life? Like, and yeah, Christopher died, so maybe he doesn't consider that a miracle, and that's basically what he was preaching on. But to see him teared up about this lady, and having not seen him teared up about losing Christopher, not refusing to talk about Christopher, not even acknowledging his death day, not acknowledging his birthday. And I'm just like, it just hit me so wrong. And I left. I mean, he was surrounded by his friends, and they're all talking and congratulating him. And I just left. So freaking heartbreaking to know. Ugh. As I talk to you guys, I realize it's been a rough week. So I don't know if I'm going to have a podcast this next week. Maybe I'll record on Monday when it's all over. And they're only going to get sadder from here until June 19th. So if you want to take a break between now and June 19th, feel free. And part of me wonders why people tune in. I have a regular set of 20 people that listen to my podcast. I see you show up every week. I had 6 people listen to my podcast in one day, and I was like, right after I published it, and I'm like, wow, people are really listening. Like, it amazes me, and I'm so appreciated of it. So the next month is going to be a little rough, but bear with me. I wish I could be more optimistic, but I want to be real. I feel like we sell people a false bill of goods when we tell them, you'll be good in 5 years, you'll be good in 10 years, you'll be good in 20 years. I don't think any of that is true. I don't think that any of that is true. Each year, I'm more able to cope with it, but it doesn't go away. I don't ever stop being less sad. Contrary to what the doctor says, contrary to what everybody says, it is just not. It's just heartbreaking. So if you have an anniversary or a birthday date coming up this week, just know I feel you. I have an understanding because it's similar, not because it's the same, but because it's similar of what you're going through. So reach out on Instagram. I'd appreciate it if you'd support my podcast. I have some affiliate links on my Facebook, some journaling, some books, also some memorial items for your loved ones. If you're allowed to put things on the grave, on my Facebook, Grieving Insomniacs. I have an Instagram, Grieving Insomniacs. I can't put affiliate links on Instagram because my Instagram is too new. They don't allow you to do that anymore. So thank you for listening. I sure appreciate it. This is Christy Haberman from Grieving Insomniacs. Kai the Wonder Dog went to sleep, so she must have decided to stay around. Thanks for listening.